We're now recording. It is 7 o'clock and we have a quorum. Ladies and gentlemen, I now call to order our August 15th council meeting. I ask you to join us in a moment of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together yet again tonight. Thank you for this wonderful community. Father, we want to especially thank you for not only the success of our local athletes we're going to recognize tonight, but their safe travel home. Father, they traveled under your guidance 2,200 miles and made great memories, and we're just grateful that tonight we can celebrate our children. And Father, we're grateful that the challenges you present to us are also opportunities. We ask tonight, Father, that you guide us, and that everything we do tonight, every word we say is pleasing in your sight. We ask for these things in the name of your Son and our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. We invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. I got to say, we've said that pledge a lot in these chambers, but with the sound of children here, it sounds a little bit better. Sounds a little bit better. I'm going to ask the council grant me the leisure of two changes to the agenda. I want to first recognize the state champion Virginia Ponytails first, and it's Shannon Arms here tonight. We have a proclamation. Shannon, I want to take care of your proclamation because right now you're at the very end of the agenda, so I don't want to do that to you. So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I want to tell you that in Blackstone we are proud of what the Nottoway Ponytails accomplished. You played, I believe, you practiced most of your practices, or maybe all of your practices here in Blackstone. I think you played most of your games. I know you won the district tournament here in Blackstone. And then you won the district tournament in Amherst. And one of the things I've always believed, and this council has backed me 100%, and previous councils as well, in a small town, if you can't recognize and celebrate the accomplishments of your youth, you might as well quit being a small town. So I'm going to read excerpts of just a little proclamation we've got, a little letter. Now, hopefully years from now, maybe some of y'all will look at it and say, remember that you're cleaning your house one day, and you're thinking about throwing something away, and maybe you're like, no, I'm not throwing this away. This is the year we finished in the Final Four of the World Series, and I believe I'm right, coaches. Y'all help me out here. I believe the team that won the World Series at one time, y'all were leading in your elimination game, South Carolina. Mm-hmm. I know it might be painful. I've been there. Yeah, I know, but well done. Let's everybody give these ladies a round of applause for their accomplishments. You're countywide, you're not away, but we're really proud of you here in Blackstone. Basically, each one of you will have a letter that says, these are some excerpts. On behalf of the members of Town Council and the citizens of this community, we congratulate you and your 2002 Nottoway Ponytails on your recent Dixie World Series appearance in Tioga, Louisiana. Your team's record of 2-2 was very respectable against some of the South's best talent. You finished in the Final Four. Not only did you perform well and play hard on the diamond, but you also appeared, and you did, you appeared to have fun doing so, and you were outstanding ambassadors of Nottoway County. We know this was an exciting time for you. Cherish these memories and friendships, girls. Trust me, cherish these. Right now, it's just another Monday night in Blackstone. Y'all got school in the week. But I want you to think about tonight. I want you to think about everything you've done this summer. It's kind of not fair that y'all got to go back to school next week. Y'all haven't had much of a summer vacation. But you dominated district and state play to earn that World Series berth, and you will get them next year. Y'all going back next year?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I heard. Yeah. So I'm going to call y'all up in the order that each one of you to frame letter. Where's Brooklyn Atkinson? I know she was one of the pitchers. No, she was not. That was another Brooklyn. That's Charlie's daughter. Congratulations. Elena Anthony. Well done. Brooklyn Thomas. There's. I heard we had a lot of Lunenburg football coaches in the crowd pulling for the Nottoway girls. That was nice. Shamaya Parham. Congratulations. Hayden Hudson, the catcher. Is it true that she caught every inning of the World Series?
Yes.
That's incredible. It's incredible. And I think only 4 balls got past her. Is that correct? Jaden Banks. Where's Jaden Banks? Kylie Hudson. Callie, I believe you've got relatives, I believe, that played the 2002 Ponytails World Series, don't you? Someone in your family?
Yes, sir.
Well done. The tradition continues. McKenna Harler. McKenna Harler, the baller. Good job. I heard you play some great ball. Good job. Good job. Meadow Austin, southpaw pitcher. Well done. Well done. Olivia Spradlin. Well done. Well done. Sydney Shute. Tell you what, the Nottoway Ponytails show up. I don't think we were on our team that had perfect attendance, and Victoria Christopher.
As soon as you say that.
The curse. That's okay. Someone will get that to Victoria.
I just saw her earlier.
I know Daddy's busy coaching football tonight. Manager Dale Hudson. The man, the myth, the legend. Well done, well done. Coach John Austin. Well done.
And thanks for everything y'all did for us.
We're glad
Really
to.
appreciate it.
We are glad to. And we have no choice but to give one to Charlie Agassiz. We just couldn't forget Charlie. Anything the coaches care to say? Any of the coaches care to say?
We just appreciate everything, all the support you guys have given us, and the youth of Nottoway, not just us.
Well, we appreciate that. Girls, great job. You made us proud. You're welcome to stay for the entire evening, but this would be a good time probably if you want to go.
Say less.
All right. And while they are exiting, I'd like to call your attention to under the mayor's minute, item number 3, the resolution. Hold on just a second. Proclamation, yes. I'm trying. I have the hardest time getting to mine.
Here, let me see if I can get it there real quick.
Page 205. Shannon Arms, you were here and you had a proclamation you wanted us to adopt.
Yes, sir.
And you were also seeking use of the town square. This is for bereaved parents who have. I want to make sure you know the terminology better than I do. I want to make sure I don't say anything inaccurate. You may come to the podium.
I wasn't prepared for this.
And I know, and I'm sorry,
That's okay.
but I know you're good on your feet.
I'll try. Let's see if I will pull up the email that I sent you, and that pretty much sums it up. Thank you, everyone, for your time here. I will read this email that I sent to Mayor Kilburn, and again, I appreciate your time as I read this. October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. This month provides an excellent opportunity for Blackstone to demonstrate its support in raising awareness of pregnancy and infant loss, research to prevent these terrible tragedies, and support for bereaved families. Moreover, it's a wonderful opportunity to educate the public on the magnitude of pregnancy and infant loss, which has been a taboo topic for decades. Skylar's Love Mission would be honored if you would sponsor an official proclamation to recognize October as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month and October 15th as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Day in Blackstone. Each year, 1 in 4 pregnancies ends in tragedy, including countless miscarriages. More than 24,000 babies are stillborn, and another 21,000 do not live to see their first birthday. COVID has sadly increased these numbers the last 2 years. The fetal and infant death rates for Black families are double that of other races. We believe that many of these tragedies could be prevented, and the bereaved families deserve the very best in bereavement support and care. Your proclamation would lend official recognition to the important work of educating the public on pregnancy and infant loss, as well as emphasize your personal commitment to supporting families which are impacted by such tragedies. I have enclosed a sample proclamation which may help your office to compose it. Skylar's Love Mission is sponsoring a free pregnancy and infant loss retreat for bereaved mothers in Blackstone from October 14th through the 16th. We have 16 bereaved moms, both local, and we have 3 that are traveling here from North Carolina also. Part of this special gathering includes a candle lighting at the Love Sign in Blackstone on the evening of October 15th, which is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Day. We will be joining families around the globe to honor our children and raise awareness on this important day. We hope you will attend this special event to present your proclamation. As always, we appreciate your support of Skylar's Love Mission's efforts. Thank you for your consideration of this special request, and I would like to take this opportunity to show you my why. This is our beautiful daughter, Skylar. This is our why. She's one of thousands of babies that are loved and missed around the world. She's my why.
Well, first things first, we want to thank you for your compassion, your courage on so many different levels. And I'd ask council if they would authorize me to issue the proclamation that you have in your packet.
Second.
Motion been made, duly seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Let me know, she's also asked, and I think in light of what we did with the ponytails, once we get the names and numbers of those that are coming, we would put a resolution and list a child. If we can let the clerk know maybe by October 1st or so.
Absolutely.
That's a
Yes.
Saturday evening, candlelight, around sunset candlelight.
That is correct.
Okay, and maybe we'll have some of those folks from Carolina come into our restaurants and.
Absolutely. They will be arriving Friday. Our retreat starts Friday at noon, all day through Saturday and Sunday, and it's completely free of charge. Skylar's Love Mission and everyone who supports us is covering all expenses.
It's amazing. You and your husband, Tracy, ladies and gentlemen, they live in Wilson's, but they've been tireless advocates for the last several years. And just what you do helping other folks, other parents, is amazing. So we thank you, and we will see you. We'll see you October 15th.
Okay. All
Hey,
right.
thank you. I want to get that out of the way. I don't want you to sit here for an hour and a half, 2 hours.
I appreciate that. I have a toddler at home who needs
Oh, that's great.
who's ready for bedtime.
There you go. There we go.
All right.
Ladies and
Bye,
gentlemen,
everyone.
thank you, Shannon. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll now go on with our regular agenda. Public hearing number 1, the budget appropriations. Mr. Town Manager, this is standard procedure, but these are things we must do by law when we have spent outside the budget that exceeds 1%. Is that right?
And if you can see, the majority of it is from VDOT project funding and VDOT project specifically, that school sidewalk project, which we budgeted for and did receive our grant, but it did not cover the full amount. So we did contribute additional VDOT maintenance monies in order to make that happen. But The majority of it is on VDOT.
But this totals $1,376,405.
That's correct. Anything else?
We will need a motion, we must have a public hearing first, that's by law. Is anyone here tonight want to speak, ask questions about this? This was. Seeing and hearing none, members of council, what's your pleasure?
I move that we approve of the appropriations presented.
So moved.
All right, motion's been made by Mr. Nash, seconded by Mr. Miller. Because it exceeds $10,000, we'll add,
Philip, or Jennifer, Ms. Hardy, can you clarify, so things like on here, sale of scrap, we typically use that line item for purchase of vehicles. So does that mean that line item is obsolete for the rest of this year, or what?
No, so this is an end of year appropriation for
For the
FY
previous,
'22
okay.
just finished, so that is just a surplus
What was left
revenues
over.
we had that left over from what wasn't spent on
Okay.
scrap. That can be applied to this. And then if you look at the bottom where it says transfer from general to VDOT, that 461, that's an accounting transfer from the general fund to that. So really, if you're trying to look at the bottom line dollar amount, you find it's 461 off the 1.3, but I had to do it like that to approve me to move it.
So it doesn't affect us thinking about how to spend money this.
Correct, this is an accounting cleanup for the
Last year.
books for
Okay.
FY '22 that we're getting ready to audit.
any other questions? Who does the roll call first tonight? What's the, Mr. Miller, we'll start with you.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Public hearing number 2, we have a public hearing that's been duly advertised on the blight ordinance, which was adopted by council a couple of years ago. And Mr. Town Manager, if you'd like to read give a brief description.
Public hearing is held as part of the obligations that the town has when enforcing its blight ordinance. We have notified Mr. Robert Wolf of the condition of his home. That letter was sent out February 4th, 2022. As you know, Mr. Wolf has had some issues with attending meetings and that sort of thing and hadn't been easily accessed or get a hold of, but I did talk to him this past weekend and asked him to come tonight and let him know what was going on. This public hearing is a matter of process. Next thing we need to do is send him a full plan, as he had not delivered to us a abatement plan. He's accessible on the phone, and I did speak to him, I think either Thursday or Friday this past week, and we're asking you to adopt this resolution with the understanding that the repairs to his home and the blight is specific to his chimney, and then the siding that is coming off the front and the soffits that are coming off the front of the house. I think a tree hit it. It is perhaps even dated before the ice storm, when those 2 oak trees came down. I don't think those were the ice storm.
It was 2020.
2020, there you go. So I think we've been working on this for a couple of years, and the Wolves have been unable to make the repairs. And this is the next step in order for us to do this and enforce this blight ordinance.
All right. And just as I say, every time we've had a blight hearing, because we've had them all over town, this is not a hearing about someone's home needing paint or, it's basically defined, it's modeled after the city of Petersburg's ordinance about interior structural components being visible from the exterior and things like that. And one of the things council has tried to do and been challenged to do by citizens, because we've started enforcing it, is to be equal across the board. It's a big deal. It's something this council doesn't take lightly. You might recall the Skidmore home on 5th Street. The owner came here in tears, very upset, and he asked for 60 days to make improvements. We gave him 90 days, and we ended up giving him about 6 months or so. This is not an action any council takes lightly, because you're basically, telling someone what to do with their property. But this time, I will declare the
remedy for it, so folks know why
Yes.
it's more than just a lien on the property or something like that. The process for this will actually include condemnation of the property, not condemnation saying the building official condemned it, but condemnation by the council and taking the property, and either doing that or using local tax funds to make the repairs to the home. And neither one are particularly palatable to anybody, and so that's where we're at. And I've talked to Robert. He's not able to come tonight, and he indicated that his wife was also on a family emergency.
And we also want to extend our thoughts. Robert was in these council chambers with his youngest daughter, Maddie, I want to say back last summer, thanking the police for saving his life. So At this time, I'm going to declare the public hearing open. I do see a member of the Wolf family, Taylor.
Yes, sir.
Anything you care to come forward, and we're glad to have you. I know these have been challenging times, and we're glad to see you here in person.
I don't necessarily have anything to say as far as the condition of the house. It is definitely bad. I mean, everybody sees it. It's on Main Street. I just want to more so, just so everybody understands, like my father is still in rehab. He was originally supposed to be released in June. He still hasn't been released. He can't walk. He was the breadwinner for my family. I swear,
Okay.
we'll come in here and cry.
Take your time. Hey, it's okay.
Last year my mom moved to Florida to take care of my grandma, who also passed last year. So they haven't had the funds to do it, and I get it. It's on Main Street. But I mean, is there not anything like, I've heard from people in the town that there's like a thing, like a grant basically for anything listed in like the historic district. Is there any like truth to this that I've?
Well, no. Well, then you raised a good point. We have, this council does do several programs. One's called weatherization. We do that from time to time. That, is mainly to help lower people's bills, and that's sort of like replacing windows and doing. Philip, would it cover side and things like that on the front? That's a great point you make.
I think the program will look at the whole house. The program will look at the whole house, including if there's any water damage, rot, all those kinds of things. And oftentimes we find out, we get into these homes using a weatherization program, and we'll end up demolishing the home and rebuilding one. But it's income based. And so everybody that participates has to meet certain criteria as far as income for the number of people in the home.
Can they own the home like the Wolves do? Can you be the homeowner?
Well, we prefer a homeowner. In fact, our program design says homeowners get priority. And this is something that we can do outside of project areas.
Right.
We do East End, we
Built
got
somebody home on
Fleur-
Scott Street about 2 or 3 years ago.
on Scott Street, or in Stoke Street.
Stoke Street, I'm sorry.
And we got into that home, and it was just so bad that we needed to take it down. So there are some grant programs. All of our weatherization money this year is spoken for. Okay, on 86th Fall Street, and then the county provided us $50,000 to work on Patterson Street on a home down there. So we're done with that. But I will tell you, Chastity is working on something called Scattered Site Grant, which is basically what we do with weatherization. It's a competitive grant process, but it'll be for homes outside of project areas. We talk about Taylor's Bottom. Well, what about Center Street? Or what about Pickett Court? Or what about one of these other places that don't necessarily meet in a program or a project area? And I think we will be presenting to you guys a proposal on that as well. Okay, but program is income based. Everything that we do has to meet program income guidelines. Well, that probably helps.
Well,
That'd probably help.
would council,
over a year.
right, and like I said, we totally we understand your whole, I did not know about your grandmother, and we're very sorry about that. Would council be willing to authorize or ask staff to explore what could be done? Now here, what Philip is saying, I think, I may be wrong, but in some cases it might be a situation where a grant is successful and that house goes down, and in its place a more energy efficient, smaller square footage, but one that will be not exposed to the elements. I imagine the heating bill in that place has got to be
$1,000 a month.
yeah. That's not helping anybody. That's
The homes we build
I
are.
told my sister when this happened to my dad.
well. I know that. I remember, and I will say this I got to say this. I was going back doing some research. You correct me if I'm wrong. The tree fell across y'all's home. I want to say February or January 2020. The pandemic hit, and your little sisters were out there with a table out in front of your house, giving away food and water and to people in need when COVID first hit. I want to say April 2020. So that to me, not many folks would do that with a house in perfect order. So how about we agree by common consent to authorize the town manager, instead of coming down with the full weight of government, to see if we can find some solutions and report back. But that
Can I give you guys my
give Philip your call.
information?
Yes.
My dad's not. He's
It's not fair. We don't need to bother him. We don't need to bother him with everything he's gone.
Just to show that the citizens that do look over our shoulder, and I know you can't get to the facial boards and stuff like that, but just show that we have effort in making sure the yard stays kept and cleaned up, and just, obviously that's not enforceable by us, because that's not what we're here. I think this specialized area that Chastity's working on would be perfect for it. I think this could be a win-win for both parties here, so.
I got a question.
Yeah, Mr. Miller.
When will you know about this scatter program?
Scattered site housing program, we gotta work with DHCD. Their guidelines request that we can't have but X amount of dollars out. So we gotta close out 1 or 2 programs so we can have funding. When we do apply, they can grant us additional funding. We're working on closing out the East End project and that UMAC.
VMAC IRF.
Well,
Project.
you already closed out phase 1, right? So now we're working on,
Phase 2, closing out phase 2, because it's up to $1 million for the scattered site housing, depending on how many homes we can pull in through the weatherization. So however many homes we get, that's the amount of money we requesting, but we're also working on the Taylor's Bottom grant that we're trying to go forward with that. So with that $2 million, we kinda gotta look at how those phases work with phase 1 of Taylor's Bottom, how much it's gonna take from that. Then with us only being able to take out $2 million and see what would be left toward that weatherization, what we can apply for that scattered site.
I don't think it will be a 2 to 6 month project. You're looking at something.
yeah, it's something
far
down the road,
longer
yeah,
than that.
maybe a year or something
Yeah.
like that. Because you just started building on phase 2 in the East End now.
Well, we're nearly done with the housing. I think we got 2 or 3 houses left.
Got 3.
3 houses left,
Right.
and the only thing that's a major expense left over there is putting the curb and gutter and the drainage improvements and the paving, and that'll happen. We hope the bids will go out around Labor Day, and we'll get most of that work done over the winter to pave in
Saved
early
us
spring.
spring.
And for those that are listening or watching, you may be wondering, well, let's see, council has done this with some other homes and wasn't as nice or didn't pursue grants. The fact of the matter is, the other 2 homes I mentioned, the Skidmore home and the home on Oak Street, there was no one living in those homes. This is a situation where we have occupied dwelling, and so if common consent,
We're not out to get y'all by any means. Don't think
No.
that's how we're up here. It's just.
we're trying to be equal.
It's on Main Street too, I get it.
Well, but
It's in plain sight of it
well-
to everybody.
that's okay. So can we agree by common consent to authorize the town manager by common consent to pursue options and report back? And until then, we'll keep you fully abreast. You won't have to wake up to any notice of any other hearing unless you get notification beforehand. Hopefully it'll be positive news that we found a possible situation, but it could mean, if we're successful, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to be gloom and doom, it could mean the home as it is gets demolished, as you know it, your childhood home. And in its place is something built. Because I remember your childhood home at Christmas was special. I mean, it was amazing. It was as good, but that could be one of the scenarios.
It can be above budget because the federal government and the state give us a cap of what you can spend on a house. And the house, because of its size, it's our big old house, and it may just exceed that budget, and it may just come down to.
Honestly, I feel like my father would be grateful for anything. It wouldn't have to be what it is
We're gonna see
now.
what we can do. We're gonna see what we can do. Thank you, Taylor, for coming out. Thank you
Not
for.
so much. Y'all have a
Hey,
great day.
hey, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Our third and final public hearing advertised tonight is rather mundane. This is, well, it's sort of important. It's a public hearing on a proposal to let the town of Blackstone collect up to 20% of in late fees for delinquent accounts.
I think we talked about this last time with the company Tax,
Right.
that's gonna get started working with us, and they did request that we adopt this ordinance. I think council's approved using them. We understood the 25% and the 20%. They gave the explanation if it goes to sale, then they're entitled to additional monies. But they did ask that, as a matter of practice, that we adopt this ordinance, and I think it codifies what basically council's already approved with the state mandated 20%. But remember, the 25 could be applied in circumstances, I think, when the actual property goes to a tax sale, if you remember the explanation
Right.
they gave Tessie. And the ordinance is attached, and it's relatively brief for your
These
consideration.
delinquent accounts, just refresh my memory, are these just any delinquent accounts or a certain time? Any delinquent account?
Well, we've got business licenses that are delinquent from last year, and they would be included in the,
So it says for local taxes or other local accounts.
Okay.
Associated
Do we have-
with elections.
Yes.
Do we have any kind of discretion on what we go after and what we don't? Not saying that's a good or bad idea, I'm just trying to
Well, no,
figure out
it's-
if we end up with somebody in here and we're gonna take their, their home's going up for sale.
Yeah, when do who pulls the trigger on unleashing to the delinquent tax firm?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, the homes go after 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, and be collected for up to 20. And I think personal property goes up the year that it becomes delinquent, and you can collect up to 5 years on personal
But
property.
everyone's getting a certified letter, right?
Oh, yeah, I mean, they're gonna be doing it all. They handle the whole,
We had some situations not too long ago where people didn't get, Brenda White in North Carolina.
but you didn't have an apartment number on
Right,
it.
right, and so they never,
How are we? Do we have a lot of homes that this would affect? I'm just speaking on people's homes specifically. Like if
I
we
don't think there's a
release
lot
this,
of
are we
homes that
gonna-
actually get sold because the process is pretty laborious, man. I mean, it's a lot of meetings. It takes a long time to do it. I would say there's maybe, I usually go to the sales, maybe no more than 4 or 5 a year in Blackstone that get sold.
Vacant 25-foot wide lots.
And they're crummy lots, and
That makes sense.
you know, they don't, it's not a lot, and it's certainly not very often that it's an occupied dwelling. It's very rare that it's an occupied dwelling. Most of them are junky lots, and they've been up before, and I think it'll affect an appreciable number, but those folks make payments to these folks. They'll set up payment plans and do all those kinds of things, get themselves out of hock, and they can collect their fees and all that kind of stuff. We don't necessarily pay it, it's collected by the company, but by the time it goes on the courthouse step, you've been to several of those sales, I've been to, each one maybe has 3 Blackstone properties, probably 10 total in the county.
I'm gonna go ahead and declare the public hearing open. Anyone here tonight want to speak for or against this? It's to comply with this new firm that we're gonna have going after delinquent accounts. I'll declare the public hearing closed. Members of council, what is your pleasure?
I move to approve to be able to collect up to 20% of the delinquent bills.
Motion's been made by Mr. Nash. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Allman is seconded.
So that's to adopt the ordinance.
To adopt section 54-29, I got a question, and Eric and I both use the same terminology. It says up to 20%. It's 20%, right?
I believe they're gonna
It's
charge
not gonna be
20%.
18 to some people, 17. It's 20%.
I think it's 20%.
Let's make sure that's clear. That it's
25 if it goes to the courthouse.
right. Up to. It's not really up to 20%. It's 20%. All right.
Is there a reason that it needs any wording in there that says not to exceed 20% then? Should it just say, didn't define it and say 20%?
This is the ordinance that they presented, that the company presented. So.
Make sure Tessie signs off on it.
Mm-hmm, that's fine.
Make sure Tessie signs, because the way this reads right here, collection of fees up to 20%. That looks like it's flexibility. Well, okay,
Tiers or whatever.
we don't want that. We want it to be. I'm like Mr. Allman. Let's be.
Straight.
All right. Just because the money involved somehow could exceed 10.
25% be in there too?
Pardon?
Should the 25% be in there too in case we go to court? Should that be? No?
They're not asking for that to be included. I think the state code already, based on the information we gave out, I think the last month's meeting,
that
already
allows
permits the 25% collection.
All in favor of the
certain
motion?
circumstances.
Let's go with a roll call vote. Starting with Mr. Miller.
Aye.
That motion carries 6-0. Members of council, you have before you several. I did not realize we met that much in June. We met 5 times in June. Hats off to the clerk.
Yes, it was lots of fun.
It was a busy month. Minutes become hours.
Move to approve and dispense with the reading of all 5.
So moved.
Mr. Miller has seconded Mr. Nash's motion. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We had the Nottaway Ponytails as our only scheduled visitor. Are there any other visitors tonight who would like to address council? There'll be a second opportunity at the end of the meeting as well. Seeing none, we'll move on to our fire chief's report, which is in your packet. Neither chief or assistant chief or deputy chief, are here. The boot drive, though, they do want approval. That is going to be on September 10th, day 1 of the Arts and Crafts Festival. I think they're planning to set up at their normal locations around the entrances around 7:30, finish by 2 o'clock. We do it every year. This will be like the 14th or 15th year. I'd entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved.
I'll give Ms. Jones has moved. Mr. Miller has seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 6-0.
Philip, while we're on the fire department real quick, have you heard anything from chief about the AC down there not working in the meeting room? I mean, for months, Lonnie, it's been
It was
in
horrific.
operation.
Yes, I've been dealing with Ricky Pope, and
I mean,
he was supposed to finish it. He's gonna have it finished by tomorrow, is what he tells me.
I mean, it's horrid in there.
Well, it's been a year at the bus shop that the air conditioning hadn't worked.
Well, I mean, at some point, we got to reach
Our
out.
annual contract hasn't apparently worked out terribly well with our lowest bidder, so.
Are the units bad? Because the bus shop opened in 07 and the fire station opened in 03. Now,
Fire station's geothermal, so is.
That's right.
Is he, not downing anybody at all, but are they capable of doing, I mean, that's a completely
Specialized.
different beast. I just want us
It's a
to
little
make sure
different
we
at the bus
put it on
shop because
top.
you don't have 30, 40 people sitting in the same room together
Yeah.
and meeting.
But he did leave me a voicemail today and said that he was going
Can
to
we
have
just
both
keep it on the
fixed.
top of the list, make sure it gets completed?
Top of the list there. All right. Any, let's see here. That was fire chief's report. So we'll move on to payment of bills. Your first batch, which is staggering, $4,469,069.21. Why are they so much
There's
higher?
one that's $3 million. What's the payoff commercial paper?
If you remember, we had the, and Jennifer can tell you too, but we had the interim financing for the first phase of East End and the second phase of East End, and this is actually closing
That's right.
the whole deal.
We received 3.2 from USDA and wired in, and this had to go out.
Big one. I like to see the P on it, pass through, but
That money was received and then sent back out,
Yeah.
except for $200,000.
It was in the closing, they just had to send it to us first, it got sent back out.
Do we have a motion to approve?
so moved.
Mr. Nash has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Jones is second. Any further discussion? We'll have a roll call vote starting with Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Those bills are passed 6-0. Bills to be paid, much lower. They total $163,681.50. They are broken down by department. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Ms. Jones has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Morgan is second. Discussion, questions? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote starting with Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Under appropriations, I believe there was one, this was, town manager's asking to purchase 8 new dumpsters with money being taken from, well, you already done it, obviously.
Well, I think we got $10,000 in the budget, and because of all the units and facilities that are getting ready to open, we needed to buy some additional dumpster. Patriot Square is using our last 6 cubic yarder, so we would like to order dumpsters, but we only had 10 in the budget. And so Jennifer has wisely taken $3,000 from where we had included into buying some carts. And so it's an internal transfer. We're not asking for new money. We're just moving from the carts.
Reimbursed though, correct?
Pardon?
It's
When we
reimbursed.
sell a dumpster, we're reimbursed.
So I mean, it comes back, and do we put it back into the cart fund?
We will, once we collect, who buys the
Okay.
dumpsters, you know, send them a bill and.
Correct.
Okay. We need a motion to approve the $3,000 appropriation for sanitation.
So moved.
Mr. Nash has moved.
Second.
Ms. Jones has seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Under sole source awards, I didn't see anything. Committee reports, health and ordinance. Carolyn is not here. She chairs that committee, doesn't she?
Miss Jones.
No, it's me.
I'm sorry, Sheila, I'm sorry.
That's
Let's
okay.
talk about the,
Chicken.
well, yeah, I had a concern about the chickens, but y'all go ahead. Give that report, whoever wishes to do so. 'Cause I think there's a misunderstanding about the setbacks. But y'all go ahead. I just, going off memory here.
You weren't here, but
We had talked about 100 feet, but then we talked about maybe doing 50 versus the 100.
I'm fine with that. The only point I would make is, and this is going to my memory, when council did allow the chickens, it's not so much like if I'm Billy Colburn and I've got chickens, if Billy wants to have the chickens 25 feet from his house, it's okay. I think the wording needs to say nearest other occupied dwelling.
Other occupied.
Yeah, like if I want to have them 25 feet, that's kind of fine with Billy.
From
But
your
if,
house.
if I want to put them by my neighbor's house, she may not want to be within 100 feet of them, or 50 feet.
Instead of it saying adjacent occupied buildings, it's.
The owners,
Yeah.
the owners.
so where it says chickens or other fowl may not be kept within 50 feet of an adjacent occupied building or residence.
I would say 100 feet from the, like I said, from the neighbor. But if I would say if I own the chickens and I want to put them right beside my house, I should have that right. But I don't want them 100 feet from Billy Colburn's house. See what I'm saying?
I don't think there's probably any chicken coop I know of in Blackstone that'll comply at 100 feet.
I know one that would not at all.
Picket court that is right there.
Why it was changed.
Lunenburg Avenue is one as well.
So it was 100 feet, but now they reduced it to 50 because
Right. But
Phillips was saying it didn't comply, that most people couldn't comply.
But my recollection is that when it was 100 feet, that was 100 feet from the neighbor, from the other occupied dwelling. I don't think there was ever a limit imposed on.
No, this is adjacent occupied building.
Okay, my apologies.
This is the neighbor from
Okay.
100 to 50 feet.
So
Well,
it's right there in the red if you.
well, yeah, that means I put my glasses on. And that wouldn't help either.
So
I'm sorry, it's worded properly. adjacent buildings or I'm sorry, Madam Chair, you're exactly right. That is fine. That is the committee's recommendation to go to 50 feet. Was there a request for that? What, just trying to bring people into compliance? What
I think
necessitated
we were
that?
just seeing more and more chickens here in town, and we've really pressed on roosters. We've
Right.
dismissed several roosters here in town, and the numbers of chickens.
Dismissed? Really?
How does that work?
That's good. Tell me more about that.
So there are fewer roosters than there were at one time, and there's not supposed to be in excess of 4 chickens, and we've had dozens of chickens in pens. What brought this up is, I'll be honest with you, I don't think many of these are compliant, specifically ones that we've seen Pickett Court, Ridge Road. The one on Lunenburg Avenue may be compliant because it may be more than from an adjacent.
Yeah, that does comply. I was thinking about the owner. That complies. That complies.
There was one on
There were 5
Second
hens
Street
there the other day, but
that
that's
have
all
been
right.
moved.
South Main Street.
There's some ducks that are printing themselves on a regular basis back there on Brown Street. So I think it's time to. I think chickens have gotten to be a little more out of control than they used to be, and I think in order for us to fully enforce it, I think we want to make sure council's familiar with the ordinance, satisfied with the ordinance, and then we've got a bunch of these little chicken pens that probably need to go away from here.
I was here at that meeting for the goat portion of it, but I pulled out my phone and did the measuring app on it and measured it. Pickett Court, since obviously they're smaller lots, it would enable a person in Pickett Court, if they put the chicken coop behind their house, directly behind their house, 25 foot off the property line on the backside, because I think that's
There's a setback,
you gotta stay 25 feet off the back of the property line. It will keep you 57 feet from any house on the side.
That's the thing. Oh, and one thing that's important, are we getting lots of complaints about chickens? Now, the roosters, but are we getting complaints about chickens?
Yeah.
We are. What kind of complaints? Just they don't,
They're
Not in a
running their
pen.
pens and they're running at large.
okay.
And
Seen one across the church.
With the cat population we have in Blackstone, I wouldn't imagine that would last too long.
Well, if you go past that Cakes and Forest Road, there's a lot of chickens over there on the corner over there by
Circle of life.
you know, over there
Ridge Road.
on Ridge Road.
We've been over and talked to the
it does
owners a
look
time or
good.
two.
So
The problem is, I
Talk
think,
to
is what they're trying to get at, and Philip's just trying to get some clarity, because right now, nobody's in compliance.
Okay.
Because
Majority
they're
are not
dying.
in compliance.
Do you tell all of them they have to get rid of them?
Right.
Or do we make it to where it's actually a little bit more?
Well, this is a committee recommendation. You're not required by law to have a public hearing to amend an ordinance. Ken Walden used to always love to have one, but I don't think it's necessary. If y'all would
And
like.
it was reducing instead of increasing. so
Correct. It's relaxing. So, Madam Chair, would you like to make that in the form of a motion? Your recommendation?
Yes, I make a motion to reduce it to 50.
All right. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
The committee recommendation was 3-0. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. So now the new rule in Blackstone is if you have chickens, they can be you can keep, as long as they're 50 feet or further away from your neighbor's house or their shed. Is that right?
And not more than, no, not shed. I think it's an occupied dwelling.
You're legal, right? Tonight, when you came to this meeting, it was 100 feet. It will now be 50 feet.
In a contained
In a contained coop.
area, not.
Yeah, we don't let chickens run at
free-roaming.
large.
Yes.
4 hens.
No more than 4 hens and no
And
roosters.
they have to
So
be
what's the-
behind the house.
Path forward on enforcement.
I pretty much know where they're at, and I just have to go out there and take a look at all of them. Yeah. The one on Ridge Road, they're loose pretty often. The ones on Second Street are gone. The people have moved. They were pinned up under a trampoline, if you had ever been by, and they stayed out pretty often. There's a series of chickens on High Street, and we keep an eye on those. They hid the rooster, and then we dispatched the rooster at some point, and I'll go back out to all the known locations. There's one in Pickett Court that has several birds. I can go through the whole list of them.
That's
but
okay, as long
there's
as-
probably a dozen in town.
Some of we can disseminate that or just, have the police, public works, whatever, just try to, the committee, Madam Chair, also, I see a hand, yes, sir, Mr. Michael Bagley.
I heard you using the term occupied dwelling next door. What happens if the next door is vacant? Are we gonna say there's an exception because that house at the present time is vacant? And that 50-foot rule?
It's a great
It says
question.
occupied, I would think that,
I would say if no one's living there, it would be unoccupied. But there's certainly gray area there, sir, and that's a great point.
Rules should apply to 50 feet, not because the building is vacant next door. The people that got the chickens should be held to 50 feet.
Because the next day I might move in.
That's right.
I might move in. I might buy it and move right in.
I'm out there with a cat.
and then you gotta move your chicken coop.
Right.
They ain't chickens and we be down here fighting.
So what would be the proper way to describe that?
Take out occupied.
I think,
Occupied or unoccupied dwelling? Would that be right?
Exactly, yeah.
Occupied or unoccupied dwelling?
50 feet of an adjacent building or residence.
No, take the building out too, because then you're talking sheds and.
Yeah, my lawnmower shed is no big deal, but occupied or unoccupied dwelling.
An adjacent residence.
Right. Would you be willing to amend your motion to state that to occupied or unoccupied residence? You want to offer that as an amendment?
Yes, yes, that's
All right.
fine.
Would someone like to second that amendment? We need to rescind the motion that carried. We have a motion that carried, so you moved to rescind the motion that just carried.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor of rescinding the motion that just carried, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The floor is open for a new motion.
I make a motion to, if it's unoccupied or occupied dwelling within 50 feet,
Must be 50 feet or greater.
50 feet or greater.
All right, and we're referring to not the chicken running around large, they're not supposed to do that, it's the chicken coop or the chicken houses. Is there a second?
Or the
Mr.
pen,
Or pen.
the pen area.
Thank you, Mr. Bagley. Is there a second to the motion? Second. Mr. Nash, a second. Any further discussion? Crew has been fighting over chickens for 2 years. I don't think they've got it ordinance yet. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries 6-0. Next up, y'all had a discussion on goats. Let's tell us about goats.
I wasn't here for the goat discussion, but I think there's been some interest by Mr. Nash, and I haven't had anybody else call me about it, but to use goats as an abatement tool to eat weeds and fence rows and hedgerows and wisteria in this case, and we really don't have anything on our ordinance that allows for livestock. I think in certain areas to the very south of town, you're allowed a certain number of horses on a certain number of acres. That's
Residential suburban zone.
I think that's about as far as we get with livestock. If you'd like, I'm sure there's a community here in the
Contacted
state.
all of my clerks, and nobody has an ordinance on goats.
Are you serious? Really? I'm shocked.
And Tessie's working on one.
This was not for permanent goats. This is for
Temporary.
temporary.
And with the temporary electric fencing, Mr. Nash has done some research where goats can come in. If we have an area that's got high weeds and wisteria, things like that, they can come in.
We know some areas around town that don't.
I've heard there's some. The locations escape me. So the committee had no recommendation on that.
And Tessie says she's working on it. It's harder than she thought it was gonna be. to
That's
pass
fine.
something, so.
And then I believe also y'all had no recommendation, Mrs. Jones, on an ordinance to require the homes face the street that they're on.
But I think the intention is to bring you a modification, perhaps to a zoning ordinance that's going to
Tessie's working on it.
require that, yeah.
Okay. So no action on anything else under health and ordinance. All right. Moving on to employment police, I believe there was no action on the job description for the DBI tourism community development job description. I think there's a recommendation to wait after Labor Day, or
Yes, sir.
What it was, with this job, at the end it came up, it's got, some people want it to be produce wise, some people wants it to be handled by DBI. So we said, the employment committee said that we'd like to set up a meeting with Philip.
The week of Labor
So
Day.
he can go over and let us know exactly what's going on. And we'd like to have that meeting within the next week or so if possible.
Absolutely.
okay. The position is DBI tourism community development. It could be a very busy job. One of the questions before the council, just for the audience benefit, is, one of the things that's important for DBI is independence, but also there's a will on some of the council to have, possibly make it a full-time position and incorporate other duties. And then the question would be, would it be a town employee? Would they answer to the town manager, that sort of thing? So the committee will continue to sort that out.
Well, that, and also we will question the town benefits.
Do they get town benefits?
Mm-hmm. I think we've factored in benefits, have we not? The 50,000 was the salary.
Some discussion about an MOU, like a memorandum of understanding.
Right.
Performance agreement.
Right,
I can
right.
speak on it a little bit. There's been some discussions about, there's about 7 other communities in Virginia that what we wanna do based on performance agreements. And
Okay.
there was some discussion, maybe we should slow down for a second where we can figure out what works with other communities and see if we can model ours after theirs. And, just really just to slow down for a second and get smart about it.
Measure twice, cut once. I like it. I like it.
But, you know, these counties that you talking about having this, I understand. But I think ours is gonna be a little bit different.
Oh, yeah, I think we have to
See,
tailor.
ours is gonna be a whole lot different than what these other counties have gotten due to the fact that DBI was supposed to be self-sufficient in 5 years, and we're still dealing with it.
It's just hard in a small town.
It's hard, I mean.
I think when I brought this up, the general gist of it, and I don't care which way, I've listened to Jake's side, I've listened to other sides as well. It's not so much as to who's doing it, it's to get the broader scope of every taxpaying business in Blackstone, the benefit of what downtown Blackstone receives. It's not just the 3 blocks in Blackstone, it's that all businesses should have equal access to the aid. It may not be grant money, but maybe guidance and helping do something, whatever.
And there has to be a little bit of research. There's certain things that DBI can support for all areas of town, and there's certain things they can't. But I think that you know, if you couple that with the thought of a healthy
And see, I
downtown
think
benefits all, and then you throw in some other things in a performance agreement, we can come to agreement, for lack of a better term.
And we've been a Virginia Main Street community since 2007. I imagine some regulations and just practices in other localities have changed a lot in 15 years. It's hard to believe it's been 15 years. So we'll continue to explore that. If you're going to get, I've read the job description. I'll tell you what, if you're going to get somebody to do that, they're going to be busy.
That's right.
Very busy. Under consent agenda, there is nothing. Am I right? Unfinished business. Y'all, wow, my computer's going to. Unfinished business. We have a bid. This is we received 2 bids to work on the flower beds in Sea Park. The lowest responsive bidder is Clay's Landscaping in the amount of $13.75. The other bid, I believe, was nearly double that, more than double that. And so you have before you a recommendation to approve the low bidder and to have a resolution which acknowledges Councilman Nash's association with that business. And he typically would have abstained. Members of council, what is your pleasure?
So moved.
Ms. Jones has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Allman has seconded. What's just general scope of work in a nutshell? Just to maintain the flower beds for a
I had
year?
COVID at that meeting, so
Okay.
I wasn't there for that one either.
What is the,
No, hold on, I'm sorry,
I'm trying to,
So there was a list provided to y'all from the committee.
I see
and
it.
It's just like, it was like cutting some of the dead
removal of
trees out.
scrub trees, weeding, shaping shrubs and crepe myrtles, spreading mulch, shaping boxwoods, and removing ivy. And this is for,
This is just one time.
this is a one and done. Okay. Motion's been made and duly seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0 with
And
one.
that included adopting the resolution as well.
Yes, it did. And that's 5-0 with one abstention. And then we have under Board of Zoning Appeals, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'm glad to present to you a name for the Board of Zoning Appeals. My dear neighbor, Mrs. Tyler Scott. She is very active in Blackstone, Nottoway County. She is very, she moved to Blackstone and has fallen in love with it. She's very, I told her what the job entails, and just so everybody knows, very important appointment because council's, I'm going to ask you to nominate her. The judge hopefully will confirm her. But the planning commission, they just recommend. The council can do what it wants. Board of Zoning Appeals, if they make a decision that people in Blackstone don't like, or the applicant doesn't like, you appeal to the circuit court. This council has no say. She's very intelligent, very in tune to the affairs of Blackstone, and someone that can interpret zoning and would be fair, but also I think she'd be firm when the occasion merited. So I put that name forth and propose that you nominate her to the circuit court.
Move to approve to present to the judge the name of Tyler Scott,
Second.
BZA.
Motion been made and duly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. Our next 2 items deal with leachate. And someone the other day said, hey, Billy, this is going to sound like a dumb question. What's leachate? And I said, well, my understanding is basically just all the stuff that comes from a landfill.
It's the rainwater that runs through the landfill and percolates down and is collected at the bottom. Modern landfills have a liquid collection system, and it's held in ponds, and they pump it out, and it cannot be taken to a creek or dumped, it's gotta be treated at a water plant, or excuse me, a wastewater plant. And, it's been done with the town of Blackstone for eons with the landfill. For years, the town of Blackstone accepted the leachate from the county at 0.8 of a cent for only 50% volume. And how they came up with that, Ronnie and Larry, I don't know. Maybe even predated Larry, I don't know. But that was the agreement previously. What's being presented before you is an ordinance. As Jennifer noted correctly, there's already been a public hearing on this, but you guys tabled action until we had some more information. This is an ordinance which will allow us to accept from multiple parties or parties, not specific to Nottaway County, leachate and septage. Septage is what comes out of, they're the solids and viscous liquids that come out of a septic tank when you pump out your septic tank. Okay, so that has to go somewhere as well. A lot of folks like Edmonds and places like that, they don't necessarily want to drive to Hopewell. And it's not universally accepted at every wastewater plant. A lot of smaller ones don't accept it, and currently Crew does not accept it.
Right, because when Nottaway County started doing this in the 90s, it would switch months. 1 month Blackstone would do it, the other month Crew would do it. Just because, you know, the towns were getting a little bit of money from the county. And sometime many years ago, it became a Blackstone thing.
Blackstone only thing, and it's been a little worrisome because if you remember, the Industrial Park Road got torn all to pieces where they were bringing transfer trucks, and so I think we've got to solve now. They're dumping over on Baker Street, and Ed has specifically requested, and for obvious reasons, because it's pretty intensive, he wants some dilution by the time it hits the wastewater plant. He wants it to be diluted with other liquids, so it doesn't get such a slug of maybe high BODs or something else that maybe.
How's it being diluted?
Just
By distance, by long, okay.
Distance and mixing with everything in between.
Okay.
So that's why we try to dump on the upper end of, we used to dump at Courthouse Road, and now we're on Baker Street.
Is there any problem with, I mean, Baker Street only has 1 or 2 homes, I believe.
There are no homes on Baker Street.
There are no homes on Baker?
No homes on Baker
Okay,
Street. It's just
so-
a little dead-end piece of asphalt off of Northwest Avenue.
No smell in the neighborhood, because I don't want people to think we're picking and choosing one neighborhood.
I don't think we have, and I don't live out there, the smell hadn't been an issue, but I think sometimes Edmonds dumps it too fast, and it was percolating up out of a manhole in the middle of Northwest Avenue in front of the house that was burned Saturday. It's not great sometimes, but we haven't had the problem at the Baker Street location. It was causing some problems when we were dumping it back on the railroad track. We used to go into Courthouse Road landfill and dumping a manhole back there, but it became so muddy and getting those transfer trucks in and out of there, it was just tearing the road all to pieces.
Okay.
And now we paved the Industrial Park Road, we don't want to send them down through there either.
You have before you the ordinance, now that we've got clarity on the county's landfill fees for the town, this is an ordinance?
There's 2 documents
Yeah,
here.
that's the second part about the charge. This is just simply allowing the town to accept leachate from wherever it chooses.
And septage from wherever it chooses.
All right, members of council, we've already had a public hearing on that. What's your pleasure?
Does it allow us to not accept them from anybody?
Yeah, I think it allows you to accept it, but it doesn't obligate you to accept it. Because I think each customer will have to sign one of these agreements, which is the next document on here. And you can just say, nah, we decided we didn't.
I mean, say if 20 landfills start coming to us, we don't want to treat but so much, I mean.
And the agreement that we have and the documentation that we have, it's only Nottaway County landfill.
And we would let Ed, of course, have some judgment on that and say, hey, we're getting a little over.
Yeah.
We have had a communication that somebody had asked if we would be interested in being a backup in the event their primary location was unable to take the leachate.
Okay.
And is this document, specific to the leachate or the leachate and the septage together?
It's leachate and septage. What we call it is disposal of sewage, but the only reason it would need to be piped to us or pumped to us would be in the event of a septic tank of some kind.
I was thinking about the new animal shelter.
Caution. I hope Burkeville or the prisons, I think, do the wastewater treatment up there. That stuff is really caustic with the hair. It doesn't break down. It's really thick and really can be problem kind of growth we're talking about. But
Right.
animal waste and animal control building can be
Heavy duty septic.
nasty
duty.
stuff. Yeah, just because of the density of it.
Very intensive. But before you is the ordinance allowing us to do that which the town manager has described. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Miller has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Jones, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Now we have the leachate agreement with, I believe it's Nottaway County on the pricing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to go from 0.8 of a penny at 50% capacity to 1 penny at 100% capacity.
And I would ask that it be retroactive back to July 1st, as we've been going back and forth and back and forth.
And this would be a just ballpark estimate, how much of an enhancement revenue-wise?
I think we figured based on the usage last year, the committee, I think we came up with an additional $91,000
Okay.
to the town.
And the county can